G'day and welcome to Bikes and Bits 1000. Today it's all about brakes. As I said at the start, today's all about brakes. What we're going to be doing is replacing my Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX brake lines and brake pads and fluid. So let's have a look at what we're going to be using. So this is a kit from Hel Performance Australia. Also, I think they're in the UK. They might have started there. Can't remember. I'm sure someone can correct me there. But this is the kit for the Ninja 1000 SX, specifically the 2020 to 2022. Now, being ABS, there's a couple of extra lines. Let's have a bit of a look. So the rear lines, the rear brakes consist of two hoses. Bit of a quick correction here. The rear system only takes one hose. It doesn't go all the way from the ABS unit. It's part of the way back to the rear caliper, and the other second hose, I got incorrect, is actually from the front master cylinder down to its corresponding connector. And the front one just consists of this. So this is coming, pretty sure this is coming from the ABS unit and then goes down to the two calipers. We're also going to need a few other things. We need brake pads. So I've got my hands on some SBS street performance pads. These aren't racing pads, these are just the normal sintered brake pads, so good to replace the OEMs. And the rear pads. Top of that, we're going to need some brake fluid. Always use a fresh bottle. This has been unopened, so ready to go. .4, make sure you know the type of fluid your bike uses. If I remember correctly, you can't mix .4, .5, because .5 I think is the silicon one, whereas I think 5.1. But anyway, I'm using basically what my bike uses, .4. Obviously need a number of tools, sockets and the like. We're also going to have to be taking apart part of the bike. So let's get started and go up to the bike. Right, so here we're at having a look at the bike. So I'm just going to show you closer down here where I'm actually pointing are the connectors. To the left that goes to the ABS unit, and to the right you can actually see the rubber lines for the front. And here's the rubber line for one of the right front caliper, so we're going to have to be replacing that. And then up there was that junction. You'll see that sort of looks familiar with that last piece I showed you from the workshop. Now looking at the rear side, there's the rear master cylinder, and so the caliper, there's the rear caliper, and then inside is the junction point. So it's only one cable, as I made in my correction. Right, now we've got to take the fairing off. There are plenty of videos out there doing it, so I will leave that to you to find. Now we've got a better view. Once the fairing's off, you can see the junction points where the new brake lines will be joining up to for the front. Okay, here's a really close view of the joints that we're going to be removing to change the lines. Now I've also taken the front of the bike off just to make it a bit easier to get access to everything. Taking the dash, taking the whole lot off, as you can see, just gives us better access. Before we take any of the lines off, we've got to empty the brake fluid. So firstly in the front reservoir, and also down in the from the bleed nipples on both sides. We're going to take out as much fluid as we can. Be careful when taking the fluid out. It will basically eat your paint. It's not great for your hands either. Wear gloves, put lots of rags down. So now I've unbolted the hoses from the calipers, and you can see up where we've got to take the bolt out for the junction point. So the bolt's out now. You can see the cable loose. Now we've just got to remove it from the junction to the hard line. So when taking these lines off, use a flare nut spanner. It looks like a normal spanner, but it's actually got more of the circle enclosed. You'll get a much better grip and avoid any problems like I had a few. Anyway, on this line there's also a bolt. You can see the top one, it's a hex bolt, but there's also one below the cloth just covering it that you'll have to then remove. Here's the front brake line removed. This is what it looks like. Here's my caliper. You can see I've got a bit of brake fluid on it, so I'm going to clean it up, take the pads out. Lots of videos around for that, so I'll leave that part rather than running through it, as this mainly is about lines. All cleaned up now, and with fresh brake pads put into it. So now we need to mount the brake calipers back onto the bike. These particular torque specs here are in regard to the Ninja 1000 SX, so you need to check what your bike requires if it's not that sort of bike, as the torque settings may be different. This also has the brake hose banjo bolts, which is the brake lines, how they connect. They have to be torqued up as well to the correct specification, so make sure you check with your manufacturer and also the manufacturer of the brake lines. So you can see here I've put the brake lines back on, as well as calipers obviously. You'll actually notice too like the bronzy kind of washers that comes with this particular kit. It's very important that they go in that orientation. They need to be on there. Also, as I move up, have a quick look here, the connection. You can see the new Hel line in there. I need to tidy that up a little bit where that connection is. This is where I had some issues. I wasn't using the correct spanners. I was just using normal spanners, and ended up getting myself some of the flare nut spanners to clean that up somewhat. Also, the brake lines didn't quite have them set right, where they were a little bit tight on one side, so I come back and clean that up, and you'll see that in the next image. Also, you'll see that top line hasn't been replaced as yet. That's the one that runs from the master cylinder down. As I mentioned start of the video, I sort of made a bit of an error realizing that wasn't there, so I came back at a later time and replaced that top line as well, but it's the same process. Instead of being from the calipers, it's just from the master cylinder down. Alright, now that the fronts are done, I'm going to start working on the back. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to take off some more parts of the bike because the back's a bit hard to get access to. So I'm going to do the rear brake line as a part 2, just to split the two up. You'll see where I really stuffed up one of the lines, had to make a bit of a fix. You'll see all that, as well as those flare spanners come in handy. So part 2 will be available via the link.